Welcome to The Scoop. I'm Diego Cordovez with Adam Schoenfeld at Bellagio. Adam, it's hard for me sometimes when we're at a tournament. You've got all your groupies following you around, all your admirers. How do you deal with that? Because in the old days, when we used to play, it was just about poker, and women weren't even allowed in the card rooms. It was a completely sexless environment. Now, incredibly enough, you've got all sorts of little hotties who are following poker players.
I just say, let them come adore me. It's, just one of the many distractions that comes with being a superstar like myself, or our guest today.
Our guest today, in a lot of ways, I think, is burdened by the fact that he has a pretty high profile for a lot of kind of stunts that he does and a lot of good marketing stuff that he does. But I've played with him and always been really impressed by just what a good poker player he is.
Joe Sebok is a fantastic player. I think he's overshadowed by his family relationships and some of his antics, but he's a super good player.
He's got all of the handicaps because Barry Greenstein is his father, so people just kind of assume that either Barry's responsible for a lot of his success or that he had a lot of advantages there. He's got a lot of stuff going on with prop bets and with media appearances, so people think, well, he's just on the camera because of that. But he's had a lot of results in a short amount of time.
He's a serious player, but he's got to cut the apron strings and get out on his own.
That's a good thing about poker. He might win a few big events, and it might be the reverse any day. You never know. We're here at Bellagio with Joe Sebok.
Hello, Joe.
What's up, boys? What's going on?
Joe, you're...
Hey, Joe.
Joe's a busy fellow. I see you are a veritable multimedia phenomenon.
I try.
You've got all sorts of different things going on. You've got a new prop bets show going on. You've got different bets, costumes, blogging. But you really are a very good player. In a short amount of time, you've had a bunch of successes. Mm-hmm. Does this just relax you and make it more fun for you, or do you ever feel like this might actually detract from your game, or
the media stuff? You mean?
Yeah, all the different stuff, and it's a question that's more general in the sense that we've had a lot of guys on who are kind of old school poker guys, where it's just poker, and now there's so many other opportunities. It's easy to kind of get sidetracked from the game.
Absolutely. Well, for me, the media stuff is fun. I mean, it's I'm a pretty gregarious guy. I like to get out in front of cameras. I like talking to people, so I always have a good time with it. It's interesting, talking about the old school players, because I talk to my dad about it all the time. Because he's always like, Joe, you need to play. And this is detracting from your play. This is hurting you. Right.
I always see him in costumes and
absolutely. And truth be told, it is not helping your game to play in a bear outfit. I'm not going to lie. There's no advantage that you gain from that.
I thought the Wonder Woman was fantastic, and I felt something stir deep inside. I don't want to address it. It's just things I don't want to address.
I would be more comfortable if you didn't address it.
Yeah.
But it's really a lot of fun. I think last year it actually did detract from my game. I think there were so many things going on. We had the radio show going. There was the best with Gavin. There were so many interviews, and I really didn't do anything during the World Series. I never ever got anywhere near final tables. I had a couple just small mediocre cashes. This year, I feel like you mature a little bit. You learn how to kind of organize yourself a little better, and I feel like it's not hurting my game. It's certainly not helping my game to have all these things going on. But this year I feel like, I'm not happy with my World Series, but I've had shots. I've almost made a couple final tables. I've done a lot of things where it's kind of out of my control. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you just can't get there for whatever reason.
But your dad really feels like it does detract or move you off your game?
He definitely does. I mean, he's as old school as you can get. I mean, he's been around forever. So for him, he kind of appreciates the media stuff because he does a lot of media stuff himself. But he's still like, you're a poker player. You need to play poker. That needs to be number one, that period, end of discussion. So we have a lot of interesting talks about that.
There's a way to compartmentalize it, I think, and I think he does a good job at that.
Definitely.
And maybe we don't do as good a job at that.
Yeah. Well, he's one of those guys, I mean, he just, he can shut it off. I mean, when he's playing, he's 100% focused. Doesn't matter what's going on. I mean, there could be a nuclear bomb dropping outside of the Rio, and he wouldn't know about it.
Well, that's what's different in a sense, is that there are, of course, people now with all sorts of opportunities, with appearances and so forth. But, last year at the main event, you were in full costume. You're doing interviews. You're getting, of course, a lot of fan attention, people coming up to you because of that. So no matter what, it'd be difficult to really focus on what's going on.
You know what really, it was definitely difficult to focus, there's no question.
You'd think.
The thing that was really irritating is, not everybody knows who I am. I'm certainly not a household name or anything. So, I'm walking to my table, which is already embarrassing enough. And I hear, other tables, random people be like, wow, that guy wants to get on TV. So they didn't realize there was a bet and there was this whole thing. I wasn't just dressing up. Right. Exactly. I wasn't dressing up as a jackass who just wanted some ESPN time. So, it would have been better if people knew, a little bit more. Hopefully this year they will know, when Gavin and Jeff Madsen lose the bet, that they will know.
Oh, and seeing Gavin in some kind of Wonder Woman, that's got to be a dream.
I know, right? Everybody wanted him to lose so much.
But if Gavin was in some kind of frilly lingerie at my table, I'd be on tilt and lose immediately.
Right.
He's not, he's not ripped.
He's definitely not ripped. He's ripped, but in a different kind of way.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You and Gavin are very good friends, traveling companions.
Right.
But you have a very different approach to poker, it seems like, to me. I haven't played a lot with him, and I've played some with you, and it just seems like you have different styles. You guys ever talk about just kind of the contrast in approaches, or...
Right. Well, obviously, we've done the different radio shows over time, and we, as you said, we've done so many things together that we do talk a lot about poker, and we definitely differ in a lot of ways. Gavin, is just more of a wild man. I mean, he just is just kind of nuts, and I have my own component of being nuts, no question. But I just have a little bit more of a calm component as well, where I can sit there and play tight and, sit for, 5-6 hours and not have any trouble with it.
Well, you surprise people with the nuttiness, which is,
right.
If you're going to develop a solid image, you need to do.
Right.
He may surprise people the other way, where he's splashing around a lot, and all of a sudden in a big pot, people think they're running him over, and he shows up with a big hand. So.
Well, the thing about Gavin, and, I have utmost respect for the guy because...
Almost.
No, I'm utmost, excuse me.
Oh, utmost.
or almost.
Almost.
That's a nice comment. I almost have respect for him.
He's one of these guys, we call him the download genius, because he'll surprise you with spreads. He's not going to be in some huge, massive pot with nothing. Mm-hmm. That's not, he'll be in these small pots with nothing and doing all kinds of crazy stuff. But believe me, when the chips go in and there's something going on, he's going to have a hand. He's not a wacko. And he does the same thing as well, just in conversations. He'll drop in these little tidbits, of genius where you're like, whoa, maybe this guy isn't a complete moron, idiot, all of a sudden.
So,
go ahead.
So as I was saying,
I didn't want to run over. So your bet this year is with Gavin and Jeff Madsen.
Correct.
And what's the exact component of that bet?
So basically, it's the same as last year, where it's just an overall World Series bet. How well you do. It's not based on cashes, but rather we have our own scoring system that's all set up. And it's the three of us this year. So rather than just having one loser and one winner as last year, there are two losers and one winner. And the way that it breaks down is Gavin and Jeff, as the losers, are going to have to dress up as court jesters. Mm-hmm. And we're actually doing this with a couple sponsors. The sponsors are going to be providing sort of like a rickshaw throne, and they're going to have to carry
like a litter.
Me. Yeah, basically. And they're going to have to carry the winner into all the first days of the main event.
Again, if Gavin wins... There's also
if he wins.
You're almost laying odds because can you even lift him?
Yeah,
I was going to say
we may be able to lift him, but the chiropractor bills are.
Yeah,
I was going to say right. Joe Manson's not a big bulky guy either.
No.
Gavin Smith might.
Right. Luckily, I have a pretty big lead right now in the bet.
Oh yeah, so give us the standings.
So far, Gavin, everybody knows, has finished second in that one pot limit event, but unfortunately for him, it didn't count in the bet because it's certain events, the way it breaks down.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so for me it was beautiful. For him, it's a really bad beat. So he actually, to this point, has scored no points in our bet. Jeff Madsen has 60. He ended up doing well. We have these joker events. Each person picked 3 events that they got to do specifically for them, and they add for more. So we did well in one of those. He has 60, and I have 225 points.
He's like the Jeff Gordon. He's got a big lead.
Exactly. So I had to maintain, though.
Just coast on in.
I'm pretending it's not a chip stack. If it was a chip stack, I would find some way to blow it. But it's not. It's a lead. It's a different situation.
Right.
You just need to put the hex on them.
But
I know.
And the series is, I don't want to say it's winding down, but we're well past the halfway point.
It feels like it's winding down. Yeah, I have a big lead. Gavin actually, his final Joker event is the 50,000 horse, though, where he does have chips right now. Still a long time before the money, so we don't have to worry about anything yet. But yeah, if he does well on that, then I'll have something to sweat.
It's funny, one of our recurring themes, probably now we've played it ad nauseum, is kind of the old school and the new school. Mm-hmm. But you're really kind of in the middle, in my view, because the real new school are guys who are 21, 22, who literally have just played poker on the internet.
Right.
12 or 16 hours a day for the last couple of years and gotten an enormous amount of training that way. We're kind of the old school. I don't know what that means, but it's...
it means you're old, you're outdated, you don't play well. It's
absolutely, and we've got a musty odor.
Besides the obvious. But you're kind of in the middle in the sense that you were out in the working world. Mm-hmm. You told me working in the internet world in the Bay Area, and then you came into poker kind of in your mid to late 20s. After experiencing other things. And when you really got into it, you read a lot of books.
Absolutely.
You really took it as kind of a project, which is a different kind of training than a lot of these guys who've played a million hands and never read a book. Or how do you continue to learn besides playing every day? But I mean, do you
Right.
still kind of take an approach?
Absolutely. I think that the main way that you learn once you kind of have the basics down is just discussing hands. Just playing with your friends, discussing. And I have one of the biggest legs up in the business just in terms of I have my dad. And we talk constantly. I mean, we're closer than, most any father-son combination that I know of.
Right.
So through that, play so much, he just has, it's amazing. I'll have questions. I'll really be perplexed. I'll be like, I don't know what to do. And it just bam.
Right.
It just, so quick. He's played so many hands. He's been playing for so many years that, there really is no substitute for experience. And while I have very little, I just have this massive pool that I can draw from when it comes to him. So, or, me, Tran, or any of these guys that are kind of in our immediate family. So I'm really incredibly lucky in that respect.
What about vice versa in the sense that, how much benefit does he get from you? And I don't mean that facetiously in the sense that obviously he has enormous experience in all venues and you benefit the most from it. But is it a way for him to tap into things that he might not otherwise?
It might be. If you ask him, he's going to say none. I already know the answer to that.
Does he ever approach you, or it's a one-way initiation?
Well, he definitely doesn't approach me for my opinion. We'll discuss things, and he'll say things like, well, no one would ever have that hand here. And I'll say, well, Barry, that's completely not true. I've seen people do that all the time. All these young players come up, you have to factor in this wild component. Sometimes they're just going to jam you no matter what. And he's like, well, that doesn't make sense. But sometimes by the end of the conversation, he'll come over a little bit and be like, well, maybe, I have to consider these things, that maybe I'm not thinking about it from that point of view. But it's always going to be like a long conversation where it's, pulling teeth, and then maybe at the end he'll throw me like a little kernel of, well, maybe you have a point. Probably not, but it's possible type of thing.
Do you ever find it intimidating, when you bring something to him and he might shoot you down? Because I find him very intimidating.
Right.
A few times I've played with him, and I don't feel this way about almost anyone, but something about Barry, the way he carries himself, I find him super intimidating.
He is really intimidating. Luckily for me, we got it out of the way. We did it on national television. They called me an idiot.
Brain damaged.
Right. He said I have brain damage on television, so we kind of got it out of the way. When it comes to him, you really have to kind of just check your ego. It really is one of those things. I hate to be so corny about it, but when you see the movies with kind of like the samurai warriors, and they go off up into the hills, and they have to completely subvert their ego to this master type of thing. With poker, it's kind of like that. I've kind of just said, I've given him, and it's sometimes it's difficult to give off that much control to someone.
It's humbling, but in this case, appropriate.
Exactly. It's very, very humbling, and it kills you. And I have a lot of confidence and a lot of ego myself.
You're a proud guy.
Absolutely.
Right.
But in this case, sometimes you have to say, look, this is just the right thing to do for you, for me.
It'd be crazy not to.
Exactly. So as soon as you get past that, he slams you and he says these things. I don't even hear it anymore. Literally, just that goes in one ear and out the other, and I just focus on the information. And that works well, but you have to get to that point.
It's like Bobby Knight without the choking, as far as we know.
Well,
I was going to say,
there's been some choking.
Yeah.
It just hasn't been on camera.
For people who didn't see it on camera, he was disappointed with the play he made at the final
Right.
table. And
He was disappointed at a play I made at a final table at the World Series of Poker after I'd been playing for 5 months.
Yeah.
I didn't even know anything.
a final table that he was a spectator at.
Absolutely. So most fathers would come and be like, great job, great job.
Right.
He just immediately walks up, how could you play ace-jack like that? Immediately just lays it
That was
to me.
pretty
Just
brain
nothing.
damage.
Yeah, bam, just like that. It's just the way that he is, it's the way that he
So
rolls.
even off camera, that'd be, I'm not saying typical, but
Right.
not atypical, in that if there's a play that he disagrees with, he's going to be vehement about it.
It's 100% typical. And that's another thing, with our relationship, what you see is what you get. We are the way that we are. He lays into you, he does not care. Cameras, no cameras, makes no difference. That's just the way that he acts all the time.
Barry believes, I think, just from my limited interaction with him, that there is a right answer to almost every poker question.
And he knows it.
and he does know it. And I think that's part of his strength, is because he has that incredible confidence, and he doesn't think it all depends. He thinks that this is the situation and this is what you do.
See, I was going to say that he's been such a successful player, for a long time. Really, it stood the test of time. But he's just burdened by that self-doubt. That holds him back.
Yeah, I'm sure that
He doesn't think he's smart.
I'm sure that's it. It's interesting with him, though. It's one of those situations where, just even off the poker side, no matter what I do, I'm always, it's always going to be him. We're always going to spend, no offense to you guys, there's always going to be half the interview spent talking about Barry.
We
weren't
going to talk about it.
It just comes up. It's impossible for it not to.
We were like, we're not going to do the same old thing and talk
Yeah.
about the bear, as I like to call him.
Right. But it's the nature of the beast, and you have to either come to peace with it, or it's going to drive you insane. Because I feel like I've had a very successful, couple years run. I'm very happy with where I am. but it's still, it's just the way it is. You kind of have to come to peace with it.
Well, you have, and you came on, and within a couple of years, you've won a $5,000 buy-in event.
Right.
You've won another big no-limit hold'em event, a couple of cashes for $250,000 plus.
Right.
And like you said, in the first couple of years of playing the World Series, you made a bunch of final tables.
Right.
So if you didn't have the connection with Barry, I think you'd get full credit for just being this
I think you're right.
up-and-comer who's just hit the ground running. With Barry, even though everyone has resources of different types, and everyone, and a lot of people who have just as many resources haven't done nearly as much, unfortunately you just have to accept the fact that some people are always going to just discredit you to some degree by saying, well, sure, he has
I've got
you
you,
or whatever.
He's got Barry Greenstein.
Exactly. It's just it.
And hence the results.
It's
Yeah.
Well, you know what? I mean, I think it's just one of those situations, like you said. We talk about it a lot. When I first came into poker, it was such a massive bonus to have him as a father. I mean, I got some notoriety. I just got so much credit. And then once I started to have some success, now it's just such a negative. At least in the public, point of view. Because anything I do, obviously, I should have done it. Because I'm Barry's kid.
Oh, you can't win in that sense. It's
exactly. There's nothing I can do.
But to some degree I disagree, because that's a great thing about poker. Tomorrow you can win, not literally tomorrow, but in a few days.
I can
win the main event. You win the main event, or you can win. 2 bracelets and there are a lot of things you can do that, even though that doesn't vault you past what Barry's done in the live games all these years and his influence in the game, it still lets you make your own mark, which in a lot of other businesses would be very, very tough.
If you win the main event, Barry will have to carry you around.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I should have a side bet with him, where he has to carry me once Gavin and Matt break down.
No, but I think if your dad is Bill Gates, then even if you were just as smart or just as capable, it would take a long time to get there.
But
in poker, luckily, you get a
do
couple
it
of
quick.
two-outers,
Yeah,
and
that's
next
a good
thing you know, you're on top of the world.
I just need to avoid the 2-outers.
Or avoid the two-outers, you're on top of the world, which is just as hard these days.
Absolutely.
Now, on your own merits, you've made your mark in the poker world. I was going to say we've had a number of beautiful women on our show, and we've had, of course, dozens of female viewers calling in saying that they want us to bring our own matinee idol. So, hence, Joe Sebok is here, one of poker's matinee idols.
Oh, man.
I don't know if I've told Adam, but when I went on the Party Poker cruise, I'd be up till 5 or 6 losing at internet poker on my $30 per hour internet connection in my room.
Yeah.
I'd trudge up to the dining room to have a late night snack, and while I was sitting there reading my 2-month-old copy of Card Player magazine, I'd hear all this giggling from a few tables away, and there'd be Joe surrounded by 4 or 5 young, skirted girls. Literally, they're all vying for Joe's attention.
It's not true. What you don't know is I was holding them for Bear, who was in the other room. He asked me to come and entertain them for a bit.
That was before Joe had his accident, and then he was impaled by a metal.
Exactly.
That was unfortunate. Yeah,
that's the other thing. Besides Eric Seidel, Joe has the most tattoos and piercings.
That is true. Yeah. I just got a new tattoo, actually. Yeah.
Not visible.
Not visible. Well, it's on my back, but I don't want to disrobe.
It's not a poker tattoo, right?
It's definitely not a poker tattoo.
All right.
It's definitely not a poker tattoo.
Those are unacceptable.
We both last year in the ESPN thing ended up just railing people about getting poker tattoos.
Poker tattoo.
Now this could be the subject of some sort of bet with Barry as well.
Oh yeah.
You know who did get a poker tattoo? Gavin Smith.
What is it?
Do you guys not know about this?
No.
We have a last longer. I have it on my phone. I mean, I guess I could show it to the viewers if you guys want me to. Basically, we did at the LAPC as part of our Raw Vegas prop bet television or internet television show. We had a last longer at the LA Poker Classic last year, and the bet was that the loser had to get some sort of art, whether it's a sun or whatever you come up with, and the winner's initials tattooed on their ass is what we did.
Oh, no.
And the sick thing is that I didn't want to do the bet. I was like, this is ridiculous.
Brutal.
I was like,
over the
this
line.
is ridiculous. And Gavin was like, let's do it. Even though Gavin's a massive underdog to me in a last longer bet, just because of the way he plays.
Of course.
So, we go there. I think we start with 20,000. By like the third break, I had like 85. I was leading the tournament. He had like nothing. He ended up losing eventually. So now he does. He has, he had to go and get the tattoo. He didn't want to get on his ass, so I said, fine, it's all good. You're getting the tattoo. Get it wherever you want. So now on his shoulder up here, he's got a little clover with a crown on it and a little JS underneath it.
Oh no!
I think we've defined the real.
When you have
school
another
versus old
man's
school.
initials tattooed on you, that's humiliating.
A lot of people don't know that Bill Brunson has got Sailor Roberts
right there. Bam, bam, SR.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what the old school guys would think about all that.
I'm going to get your face, but I'd have to almost expand for you as your
You're going to have to work out for a while,
Yeah.
and then...
my full head.
Yeah.
Joe, it's been a pleasure having you on, and
Absolutely.
I really mean it in the sense that I remember, I think it was probably the first World Series of Poker tournament.
I was going to reference
you were
this,
at
but
my
go ahead.
table.
Go ahead,
you were
yeah.
at my table in the 5,000 limit hold'em, and in all sincerity, I never would have believed it was your first big tournament ever, because you were playing very well, and obviously you've kept improving since then. So
Thank you.
even though this other stuff overshadows at times, you've already had a lot of success. You're going to have even more. I can tell. You keep working at
Thank
it,
you. I
improving,
appreciate it.
and we'll be looking for your name. There's still a few weeks to go in the tournament, so
Good luck, Joe.
and you need
We'll
to
hope.
you need
We'll
to hang on for
Yeah.
that as well.
I don't want to see you carrying Gavin.
I don't want to see me carrying Gavin.
So anyhow, thanks for joining us,
Thanks,
Joe.
guys. I
Thanks,
appreciate
Joe.
it.
And we'll talk to you soon.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us on The Scoop. We'll see you tomorrow.